we'll start off with Konate. I think in general, this show is actually a lot of it's going to reflect on this idea that certain players have only got a few clubs that they could possibly move to for a variety of reasons, often budgetary, profile in terms of where you're moving to. Konate is quite an extreme example of this because it does seem as though if he isn't going to play for Liverpool, at least in 12 months' time, he's going to be playing for Real Madrid or Paris Saint-Germain. That's the market. It doesn't feel like there's anyone else in the market. I'm still none the wiser, really, as to how this is going to sort of go with Konate. I think we all had a bit of a sense relatively early on the direction of travel with Alexander-Arnold. And I think we all had a level of optimism around Virgil van Dijk. I don't feel as though Konate is that clear in either direction. And I think that it's a difficult situation to navigate if you're the Reds.
Yeah, it's a particular case, isn't it? Because I've heard, a few different theories on him. Like a lot of Liverpool fans don't want to sell him. They see him as the successor, as the lead centre-half. And it's clear that if all you've got to do is watch other games of football in and around the top level. There's not many centre-halves as good as him. But it is a particular situation where, he could potentially leave for free for, I would say a rival. Is the potential we could get a little bit of cash in for him now. But also it's like, do Liverpool want to commit another 5-6 years to him on big money? Because I'm not an expert in sports science or anything like that, but I do watch a hell of a lot of football and still play it for me sins. And I think the older you get as a big, strong, heavy centre-half, the more likely you are to start picking up injuries. And I think Liverpool might look at that. I think Van Dijk, whilst he's similar in stature, is a completely different player. I think Konate is somebody who relies on his strength and his brawn, and he's always reminded me of Sol Campbell. I thought it was dead interesting that Sol Campbell in his peak was as good as anybody in the world, but then he ended up playing for Notts County. So when he lost his sort of abilities, it was very sort of clear. And I also think from a Real Madrid point of view as well, is like obviously he's incredibly top level and he's in the French team, but I think they also might be looking at it going, well, he was quite good playing with Alexander-Arnold. And we need a centre-half, and he's coming up on our radar because he's got 12 months left. And I think they might just want to see a little bit of that. But yeah, it's a funny one with Konate because I think the two parallels is he signs a new contract and he might end up becoming Liverpool's captain, or he leaves next summer on a free.
My instinct is it'll leave next summer on a free. I have to say that's just the feeling I've got. I don't know why in my gut. By next summer he'll have been at the club 5 years. With the exception of the Champions League, obviously lost the final. With the exception of that, he'll have won the lot. He'll have had, by anyone's measure, a great Liverpool career in terms of the trophies he's won, the teams he's been a part of. He has been ravaged by injuries at times. During this spell, he's not been somebody we can always rely on.
And he'll look at that when it comes to the big deal. Definitely, I think. Yeah, it's one of my thoughts.
He's obviously from. Is he from Paris? I think all the Paris area. So PSG was always the side that I wondered about. But more than anything, I just think that the fee that Madrid would have to pay this summer for it to be worth us accepting it, a fee in the region of 40 plus million, say, I just can't see Madrid paying for a player that they think they can get for free next summer. And the amount they would be willing to pay, say it was, 20 million, like a 25 million, a token amount, really, it would feel like to us for a player of his worth, I don't think Liverpool would accept. And I just feel it might be one of those situations where we think there is more worth in having another year of the player on our books and then letting him move on than there is in us accepting, a knockdown fee now or beforehand. And from his point of view, I can see why he would want this next challenge, would want this next move. And I know some people would say, well, it's exactly the same as what Trent Alexander-Arnold did, and you were all up in arms about that. But it is a bit different when it's a lad from Paris who's come here as part of his journey and won it all.
So I actually think he'll sign a contract at some point. I think at some point they will come to an agreement. I obviously have no insight into it, but I don't think it's quite as... I've never got the impression it's as desperate as some people have been happy to portray it in terms of coming to an agreement. Ultimately, they don't have to agree it straight away. He's got a year left. It's just a bit unusual that it gets this far, but I'm looking at the options from where he'd go, and I'm not I'm not convinced about PSG. They're reasonably well stacked at centre half. The captain is one of the centre halves. The other side, they spent a decent amount of money on Pacho last summer,
and he's played well.
And he's played really well. He didn't even get his place back though last night in that final. They played Beraldo instead, who'd been reasonably good. They're all right in that area of the pitch. Real Madrid are not. They're not desperate at centre back now. They've signed Hussein. There's
Rudiger looks like he's on his last.
But there's Eder Militao as well, who's still knocking around. He's only 27, and you know I think they still think quite highly of him. And
they've got another young lad as well, haven't they?
There's that Asensio. I don't think's.
They like him though. He's a Madrid lad,
yeah.
don't they? They like him.
Yeah, there is that. And I just sort of look at it, and I think it's just a bit of a game that the club want to think that they've won. He wants to think that he's won, and eventually I think they'll just come to an agreement. I think it's been interesting how he's sort of happily battered back, social media talk quite openly, which somebody else didn't do any of, did he? He just went, I'm not talking about it. He's been sort of happy to talk about it by saying, well, there's nothing, this isn't true. It's not the same pattern as somebody else who went to Real Madrid is what I'm saying. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong. I just think that eventually they'll realise that it's the mutually best option.
I hope you're enjoying this free show at the moment. Loads of excellent, exciting stuff on the Anfield app. If you want to be part of the whole thing, you can download the Anfield app and go from there. Or you can subscribe via the YouTube membership as well for video-only content and other bits and pieces. We love doing these shows. We love that you watch them. So come, be part of the journey with us.